everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
Vince!
And today Vince came up with our topic. He just came up with our topic no more than like 20 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And
I said it, he hit the record button.
I hit the record button. We have not discussed this at all beforehand. We're just going to jump right into it. And Vince, what is our topic for today?
Is the circus still a viable form of entertainment?
That's what we're talking about today. Let's get right into it, Vince. How many times in your life would you say you've been to the circus?
Once.
Just once?
I think just once.
How old were you?
Oh, I must have been knee-high to a grasshopper, man. I was pretty young.
Do you remember anything about it?
Not a lot. I remember there being circus peanuts and thinking they were terrible.
I think I've probably been to the circus 3 or 4 times. I think I went more when I was somewhere around like 8 or 9, so I remember it pretty well. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember really, really enjoying it. Yeah, because it was so unusual. You know, it was like going back in time and seeing something that people don't talk about. I mean, that's what I really liked about it. And it was like going to the zoo in that you get to see a bunch of animals, but you get to actually see them doing things and not just like sitting around. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
The idea of seeing talented animals in person was very appealing to me.
I'm impressed by a man who can ride a unicycle, let alone a bear. That's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't see that, but I just, but I don't know. It's like where else do you get to see you know people riding elephants and like lion tamers and things like that. You know, it's kind of fun. Why do you think that it's not the big thing that it used to be? You know, like everybody and his dog doesn't go to the circus anymore.
I feel like people get desensitized by things. I mean, if you can go see something huge and just unfathomable at a movie theater due to things like CGI and prosthetics or whatever, it's interesting to me that somebody could be more thrilled by that than they could by something at a circus. You know, the appeal, I think, of the circus is that these things are in person. You can reach out and touch these things, and these people are doing something that's maybe a little extreme, like being shot out of a cannon or taming lions or whatever. But
trapeze artists and things that are just you have to train forever to do these things.
Yeah, I think the circus is still a viable form of entertainment. I just feel like it's a little bit harder for circuses to exist because it used to be a big thing. The circus would come to town. They had multiple shows that you'd go see. They had multiple acts, and they had a freak show, and they had all of these things that were outside of your scope, things that you just didn't see. Or couldn't see. And now we have, since we have movies and TV and the internet, we see all sorts of grandiose and bizarre things, both fabricated and real. But
we had all those things when we were kids too. I mean, like movies are somewhat different in how they put things together, but by and large, you still see a lot of the same things that you saw when you and I were kids. And I thought the circus was absolutely fascinating. There's something about seeing people do things in person that like you can't do, or that you don't know people that can do, that are just like very impressive things. And I think that we still have this. I mean, people still go out of their house to go see things, and I mean, like, it's not like because I just don't think it's all because of the advent of television and movies. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but people still go to sporting events. True. People still go to see feats of physical prowess. The Olympics haven't become less of a big deal just because people can go see movies. Why the circus?
When I think of the circus, I think of certain major things. I think of acrobats, which is a feat of strength and agility that is, something that's outside of your scope. And even if you see it in movies, they're seeing a man or a woman flip around way up in the air is kind of impressive. But then you have things like clowns.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
Clowns are not something that you can't get elsewhere. You can get cleverer humor from things that are not clowns.
Well, I think horror has given clowns a bad reputation, Vince. And I'm not even kidding. I think clowns have become, by and large, considered kind of a taboo, creepy thing.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why clowns are supposed to be so frightening. Because remember, I don't know.
I was always scared of clowns when I was a kid, except for in certain circumstances. Like, they didn't scare me at the circus. I thought they were funny and entertaining. And I have known professional clowns. Yeah, I knew. My parents, my dad and my stepmom actually knew one of the McDonald's clowns. One of the few that was actually on commercials. Because my stepmom worked at McDonald's and was a manager or whatever and did stuff. And anyway, I saw Ronald McDonald in person once. It was one of the ones that was on the commercials, and that was kind of cool. And they knew him, and he was funny, and he wasn't creepy just because he was a clown. And then we had this this woman that we were friends with when I lived in Arkansas who also did that for a living. Who was a clown and went to birthday parties and old folks' homes and all kinds of things and I did a lot of juggling and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I do think that movies give clowns a bad rap. I don't quite understand why people think clowns are quite
retirement homes. It's not old folks. Sorry, I said old folks' homes.
Retirement term.
Retirement homes. I shouldn't have said that. Go ahead.
Where old people go to be forgotten.
No. Stop it. Stop it. That was no. That was crass of me. I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh man, but. I've never quite found, I can see how a clown can be creepy, but I can see how you can make a rabbit creepy. I mean, it's all about how you present something and how the makeup fits the clown, and you can, when I was a kid, I used to watch Bozo the Clown, and I didn't find that guy creepy at all.
No, I like Bozo the Clown.
And, yeah.
I just wanted to see if that kid was going to win the grand prize game at the end.
I'll admit, I don't remember much about it.
Okay, so the grand prize game... Why are we talking about the circus and clowns? Okay, anyway, if you tuned in today to see something completely different, that's what you got.
You should have watched Monty Python. And now for something completely different.
So there's 10 little cups, and they and there's lights next to each of them that light up when you're supposed to go to the next one. So you throw a ball in the first one, and then you throw a ball in the second one, and then the third one, and you try to get to 10. And it was always really hard to get all the way to 10, but it was always really impressive when a kid managed to do it.
Sounds like a drinking game.
It wasn't a drinking game.
The kids weren't getting plastered on Bozo?
No. There are also some...
Maybe paper mache.
There are also some, Chuck E. Cheese's and arcades that actually have that game where kids could go play it.
Oh, wow. Another thing about the circus.
The more you know. Rainbow. Anyway.
But I feel like... we just accept that that animals can be controlled and that there are ideas like lion tamers out there or people who would have an animal on set. So I feel like that part of the circus is partially invalidated because we have this consciousness that is aware of tamed wild animals. Now, granted, we also have this this cynicism that goes along with when somebody gets attacked by a tame wild animal, we go, well, of course! He spent his life dealing with tigers. Of course he's going to get eaten.
I kind of wonder if some of it too is modern sensibilities, right? Where it's like we're kind of afraid, I think, of institutions like circuses sometimes, and if they mistreat animals, and if they mistreat the people that work for them, and if they pay them enough, and that sort of thing, where it's hard to have oversight with something like a traveling circus, and almost all circuses are traveling circuses. We have this with carnivals too, but carnivals haven't gone the way of the dinosaur. There's just not as much of it as there used to be. But circuses, I feel like are much rarer than carnivals have gotten, and I think that the reason I have this perception, I think, is because of fiction, like everything, so I may be wrong, but fiction certainly reflects, modern sensibilities. How many times have you seen a circus in a narrative within the last 50 years where somebody wasn't being mistreated at the circus? Yeah. Like everything I've ever seen has had a circus has had somebody, either the leader, either the ringleader or somebody in the circus that mistreats the people, and where on the outside everybody thinks that it's fine, but then you go behind closed doors and there's slavery happening and things like that. And I wonder if that kind of thing has affected our perceptions or how we got to that point in the first place.
I feel like there's a perception that, initially I feel like we saw circuses as this fun place, and you'd go there for entertainment purposes, and it was magic and wonder and mysticism. And then we get a lot of stories about how the circuses has a lot of, like, a seedy underbelly going on.
Right, yeah.
And then we get so much of that it becomes saturated in our mind, in our pop culture mindset, that we go, wow, circuses are kind of evil places or scary places or whatever, and then we have to be leery of things. So I'm not sure where I'm going with that. I'm just saying I feel like that kind of builds into the idea that, say, now we all feel like the circus is a scary place. Or
I think it's very interesting that we live at a time where so much of entertainment is nostalgic entertainment. It's interesting that this topic is actually, the more I'm thinking about it, more relevant than I realized it was. Because at first I was sort of like, this is a silly topic, and now I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, well, we live in an age of nostalgia, and I say that a lot, and I've said that for years, and it hasn't changed yet. We still feels like the age of nostalgia. And you'd think that so many of these things would come back because they're nostalgic, but it's almost like we like the memory of it, but not enough to bring it back full-fledged, right? Like circuses are that way. Pinball machines are that way. There's a lot of things that, like, you don't see all the time anymore, and you can point to things like you did with movies, and with the fact that there's entertainment where you can go to, it's maybe a little bit cheaper, you don't have to be there as long. I think some of it too is just time that you sit in your seats, but I didn't even think of that before. But it was just like with pinball machines, like you can point to things like video games and different kinds of technology that's faster paced and not just a ball bouncing around in a thing. But then, like, they stayed popular through the mid-90s when we already had consoles in the home that were pretty popular. And I find myself wondering why exactly it is, because you can point to things and you can see the reasons, but what I don't get is why some of this stuff hasn't come back.
And I feel like in our society where we are looking at new stuff constantly, where it's all about what's at the top 40, what's new, what's hitting the streets right now. I feel like nostalgia is almost something that is forced into existence because so much of stuff is new, and we're constantly trying to fit what's new into our lives, that when we start looking back on things, just 5 years down the line, we go, man, that thing that came out 5 years ago was really cool. And you start getting nostalgic for things that are still in recent memory that no longer feel like they're in recent memory. So that way we get people who are like 14 and 15 getting nostalgic for things that they had when they were 6 or 7.
And a lot of that stuff ends up just being rehashes of things that existed years before that, even.
Yeah, I mean, these things
and so we keep, because you say that a lot, where it's like people care about the new, but I always like to reinforce the idea that they think that, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I feel like people are told that they need to care about the new, therefore they do.
No. What I'm saying is the thing that they think is new is not necessarily new.
Oh, good point.
I think that is very, very important to keep in, but I think that is huge, because if they're nostalgic for something that they had 5 years ago and they're like 12. I guarantee you that thing that they're nostalgic for 5 years ago wasn't new 5 years ago. You see what I'm saying? But it's just perspectives. It's just, I don't get how we could be so nostalgic for things that we wear, that all these people go around wearing T-shirts of things that have existed for a bunch of years, but then they don't actually want the thing itself.
They want the experience back. They want, or
they just want to be seen as being cool because they know what it is. Sometimes that's it.
The
I don't know.
whole hipster thing.
Kind of, sort of. It's just like if you see a guy like our age walking or younger walking around wearing a Pac-Man T-shirt, does he play Pac-Man? Does that mean he plays Pac-Man, or does that mean that he knows what Pac-Man is? That's what I'm saying. I don't know if this has anything at all to do with the circus, other than just the idea of nostalgia and how like we long for old things, but do we really want to make them new again? And when I say new again, I don't mean rehash them. I mean bring them back to what they were before and experience them like we used to. I also think that the circus becomes very problematic in culture, like a lot of other things, where you have things that are rooted in the circus, but it doesn't make sense anymore because the circus isn't a big thing anymore. How in the world could Dick Grayson possibly still have his same backstory?
He's part of Cirque du Soleil.
in 2012, that kind of thing. Like we're
Yeah,
a lot of
I mean,
things,
it's as easy as making him a gymnast, but still.
yeah, but people wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
Because we remember him as being in the circus.
I feel like I feel like Gotham could support a giant circus. I feel like Gotham.
But Haley's was a traveling circus.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Gotham could. You could just tweak the story. Granted, that's supporting your point to say that there's not.
You'd have to tweak it, but it's just like we keep having to tweak Superman to make a newspaper work, because newspapers aren't what they used to be. You can't you're less likely to get rich working at a newspaper. That sort of thing. And so I don't know. I think it's interesting. It doesn't feel like that long ago that Robin's backstory made more sense. Like, even when I was a kid, circuses felt more prominent than they do now. Like, even in the early 90s, I felt like you heard about circuses more than you do now.
I forget.
Is it the internet? Can we just blame that for everything, like I always do?
You're not following.
I don't know. I'm just asking. I think it's interesting.
The freak show.
And can I also say, I don't know how much I care. I don't know that it's that big of a deal to me that the circus isn't around as much anymore.
It's not a huge deal to me either. But
I'm just throwing darts trying to figure it out. Because I think it's interesting. Just like anything else like that. That's just not a thing anymore.
The freak show used to be a big draw to the circus way back in the day, but I forget when freak shows became somewhat illegal.
Well, and we're culturally much more sensitive than that sort of thing, even if they weren't.
They're like, oh, look at the wolf man. Well, no, he's not a wolf man. He has a disease that makes him grow hair, or he has a disorder. We can't say it's a disease.
I think we also have a much better understanding of medical science now, and so that sort of thing wouldn't be.
It's not like there's this new species running around. We know it's a person with a condition.
But I still think that...
Or just a lady that chooses not to, wax or shave or whatever.
But I think there's still enough stuff that's not, like, morally reprehensible that I could still see the appeal of going to a circus.
Yeah.
Certainly.
I mean, and that's why things like Cirque du Soleil, or however you say that word, does exist, because it's about feats of human athleticism,
sure,
artistic dance, however you want to call it. These people are doing really interesting and hard to do things. So they are like, you could watch that on film and still be impressed by it. But seeing it in person would be even bigger, because, well, first of all, you're immersed into the lights, you're immersed into the world, and secondly, you are looking right at somebody doing something ridiculously hard.
It is interesting. Street performance hasn't gone away.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the people that would do things at the circus, I think, have kind of gone more to street performance. Like you still see knife eaters and like fire eaters and all that kind of stuff at like festivals and street performance, and like these kinds of practices haven't gone away. The stuff's still there.
There's a certain amount of fabrication that's obvious in live performance. And one of the things that kind of, excuse me, when you look at a fight, unless it's super choreographed, there's still a certain amount of sluggishness to the moves, and it's obviously that they're not trying to hurt each other. But when I go to the Renaissance Festival here in Kansas City, I cannot help but stop and watch Robin Hood and Little John fight each other.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I know they're not trying to actually hurt each other, and
it's choreographed.
And it's really obvious, but it's a lot of fun. You get to cheer. I mean, I feel like, or maybe that's part of it. Maybe part of seeing something live is that you feel like you're involved. You feel like you're participating. You say, "Go, Little John, go," or the O's and the ahs and the gasps are. You are participating because you are outwardly expressing fear for the lion tamer's life, even though you're probably pretty sure that they're not going to get hurt.
Well, but you want to root for the hero of whatever it is, yeah.
And maybe a circus's real draw is for, kids. I mean, maybe the next time you go to a circus, it'll be less about seeing something really cool and more about seeing your kid tricked into believing what he's seeing is real.
No, that's absolutely right, yeah. I think it's still absolutely a valid part of entertainment, except for obviously the parts that just aren't anymore, because they're outdated for good reasons. Like the freak show, like you mentioned.
Indeed.
Well, I don't know how interesting or relevant this topic was, but Vince mentioned it, I think, as a joke, and I wanted to see if we could do it. So that's what we did.
Half formed or fully formed, you make the judge.
Everybody,
Is it worth being part of the freak show?
Everybody, thanks a lot for watching Geeks Not Nerds. We sure appreciate it. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. Oh, and I wanted to mention that we are going to do another, wait for it, multi-topic extravaganza. Yes, indeed. Because we haven't done one of these in a while. It's time to bring it back, and I want to start one probably next week. So leave your questions in the comments section, please. Anything you want to ask us about anything. We won't guarantee that we'll get to every question. We'll do our very best, and if you want to leave multiple questions, that's fine too. Just don't be upset if we kind of pick and choose, because we do get a lot of questions when we do these, and we'll go back through some of our old topics that people have suggested that we didn't want to do a whole video on, but maybe we could touch on and talk about for a couple minutes. So anyway, multi-topic extravaganza is just a Q&A, but we call it that because we do some topics on there also that people have requested, but that we don't want to do a whole video on. So multi-topic extravaganza for next time, and the more questions we get, the more parts that'll be in. We like to kind of talk for half an hour and then see where we're at on the list. Next week, do another one. So multi-topic extravaganza next time. Please leave your questions. Thanks as always for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince. My name is Butcher Local Circus. I'm at a comic book store.
We'll see you next time.
Support it.
Support it.
Support your face.